the PBA Finals, will the Ginebra Gin Kings score another win to inch closer to the title, or will TNT even things out? And the fight against COVID-19 hits another milestone. The UK becomes the first Western country to license a vaccine against the virus. Mass inoculation in the country using Pfizer shots may begin next week. We begin tonight with Metro Manila Mayor's rethinking allowing minors back in malls this holiday season. Camille Samonte is reporting live in Pasay to give us more details. Camille, what prompted this move from local chief executives?
Robbie, as far as the Metro Manila mayors are concerned, it may be better to consult health experts before easing restrictions in malls. The Metro Manila Council agreed to first consult with medical experts before they decide to allow minors to enter malls with their parents. MMDA General Manager Jojo Garcia says the Philippine Pediatric Society, in coordination with the Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of the Philippines, will present a report on the safety of the proposed ordinance.
So na-decide kagabi ng mga mayors natin na we will wait for the opinion of the experts, no? Sabi nga nila, payagan natin yan, magkaroon ng surge, ang sisisihan mayors no? At hindi naman mga doktor yan, no? Yung mga mayors natin.
And with Metro Manila still under GCQ, Garcia clarified that only those aged 18 to 65 are allowed to go outside. This is despite an IATF resolution allowing 15 to 65 years olds outside their homes. The Council will also seek clarification from the IATF on what would be considered essential activities. In an interview with One News The Chiefs, the Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of the Philippines said there is no evidence yet that children could be COVID-19 super spreaders, but the chance among COVID-19 infection among minors is still high.
We're not saying that it's impossible for them to spread the disease, diba? That's not naman also true. So I think I just wanted to get away from the concept that they are super spreaders because there's no evidence naman.
Dr. Annalisa Ong Lim also reiterated that both minors and adults are still not safe from the threat of the virus.
Kung yung risk ng paggala mo, ang kapalit naman nun, mahawa yung anak mo at mag-uwi pa siya ng sakit, sulit kaya yon? Parang hindi naman yata, di ba?
The Health Department also discourages the proposal. Secretary Francisco Duque says children may still spread COVID-19.
Posibleng hindi nga po sila magpakita ng mga malubhang sintomas, ngunit sila naman po, dahil yung COVID mapupunta sa ilong, sa lalamunan, kapag nagsalita, yumakap kay lolo, kay lola, kay tito, kay mami, yan po, pwedeng sila din ang maging sanhi ng pagkalat at magkakaroon tayo ng mataas na infection rate.
National Task Force against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez is also quite reluctant in letting minors out of their houses.
Sa ngayon, na hindi pa tayo po pwede magkumpiyansa kasi yung ating mga figures hindi pa po irreversible.
Robbie, the Metro Manila Council will meet tomorrow to discuss and vote on the guidelines based on the facts presented by medical experts. Mall managements are also still awaiting for the proper guidelines from the LGUs. Robbie?
Maraming salamat. That was Camille Samonte reporting live in Pasay City. Now, officials note a downward trend in COVID-19 cases across the country, but they're warning that infections could spike again after the holidays. Health Secretary Francisco Duque is highlighting a decline in active cases as well as the decreasing critical care utilization rate of various regions, particularly in the National Capital Region. But he is telling the public, reminding the public not to be complacent.
Alam po ng DOH na itong ating mga numero ay magbago anytime. Kahit na bumababa, hindi po ito irreversible. Pwedeng bumaliktad at mauwi tayo doon sa pagsipa muli ng mga kaso at mabilaukan ang ating mga ospital at ang ating pong mga ibang mga pasilidad.
And many agencies are echoing that appeal to the public to continue following strict health protocols especially this coming Christmas season. The CBCP has set guidelines for the traditional Misa de Gallo. This year's anticipated Simbang Gabi Masses may start as early as 6 p.m., while the last Mass will be at 6 a.m. Transportation Department is also working with other agencies to strictly monitor health protocols in transport terminals.
We are fielding random mystery passengers to check compliance sa atin pong public utility vehicles.
President Rodrigo Duterte has finally signed the order allowing the Food and Drug Administration to issue emergency use authorization for COVID-19 vaccines. Through EO 121, experimental products may get approved within just 21 days from the previous 6 months. The EO allows emergency use authorization for drugs that can prevent or treat COVID-19 as long as the benefits offset the risks. An EUA is only valid while the pandemic persists and may be revoked by the FDA for public health and safety reasons. In a statement, the FDA Director General Eric Domingo said they will release the EUA guidelines soon to ensure that the upcoming COVID-19 vaccines are safe and efficacious. Medical schools may soon be allowed to resume face-to-face classes. Meanwhile, at the Laging Handa briefing, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez said the move will help beef up the country's medical workforce in the middle of the crisis.
Talagang kailangan po natin ng health workers. Kaya ito po, yung face-to-face, maganda po na maibalik po yun sa, lalo na sa mga tatawag na medical schools at saka yung mga medical courses para magkaroon tayo ng tatawag na relief para sa ating mga health workers.
We know we're all eager to celebrate the holidays with family and friends, but you might have to isolate yourselves first in a Christmas bubble, as one lawmaker suggests. How will that work? Jenny Dongon tells us.
It has been a family tradition among most of Filipinos to hold reunions during Christmas. But due to the health crisis, physical gatherings have been prohibited as this may result in the further spread of the virus. The family of Arnaldo, for one, will not be able to have their usual Christmas experience this year.
We have this tradition of checking into a hotel kasi taga-province pa kami. So we check into a hotel, we prepare there, we gather our gifts there, then we go to our grandmother's place. We have a little program.
This time, the Tayo family is planning to celebrate the birth of Christ in the most safe and practical way.
We're gonna do things virtually. So we're gonna do it via Zoom, and then we're just gonna prepare some games, some games that we can do over the internet.
Several companies will also go virtual. A BPO firm in Makati City is organizing an online pajama party among its work-from-home employees.
We do what we can with what we have, and it's important that we don't neglect and then we don't forget all the good things that we can still be doing.
But with over 100 employees, organizers admit that it is extra challenging to come up with a remote party.
The spirit of engagement, the spirit of camaraderie, parang nag-lessen siya pagdating nung online. And so we're trying to keep it up palagi, to hype the event all the time.
For BHW Congresswoman Angelica Ko, physical celebration of the holiday season is still possible. She is calling on the IATF to approve what she calls Christmas Family Bubble. Under the scheme, families that are able to plan ahead can self-quarantine for 14 days before their in-person meet-up. The lawmaker adds that it will be better if they are also able to undergo prior COVID-19 testing. When asked if businesses would consider the proposal, Figueroa says it is not ideal, especially for BPO firms.
That would be difficult to do kasi the way I understand bubbles, you'll have to, house everyone in a specific location for 14 days.
Health experts say necessary precautions are needed if they decide to push through with physical celebrations. According to Dr. Leonila Dance of Healthcare Professional Alliance Against COVID-19, it is important to consider the venue.
Check niyo yung ventilation, air ventilation, no? So dapat yung hindi nasa kulog na lugar, kung pwede sa may garden o sa may labas, mas maganda.
For News 5, Jenny Dongon, PR1 News.
We'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns, Traffic is more manageable along toll booths today as transport authorities noted a spike in RFID penetration over the past days. And groups fear that the newest version of the security of tenure bill might just be counterproductive. Find out why later. Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. The Transportation Department is already setting its sights on the next phase of cashless payments in tollways. That is despite hundreds of vehicles still lining up in booths to have their stickers installed for Phase 1. Our correspondent, JC Cosico, is in Mandaluyong to share with us their first-hand experience of lining up for the RFID. JC, how did the installation go?
Robbie, as early as 9 a.m., our team lined up at the northbound lane of the Mindanao Avenue Toll Plaza to have our RFID sticker installed. And as expected, we were greeted with heavy traffic caused by a huge volume of motorists availing RFID stickers. When our team was about to reach the toll booth, a personal handed us a customer information sheet. After filling out the form with the driver's name, contact number, and vehicle's plate number, we had to pay 500 pesos for the RFID's initial load. Yung 500 ay na yung load nun?
Oh, yun na po yun. Parang kayo rin po gagamit ng 500.
So walang requirements na kailangan? 500 no? The sticker may be installed either on the windshield or the vehicle's headlight. It's all up to the motorist.
Saan sir? Dito na lang?
Sige, sa loob na lang. Sa loob na lang. Okay lang yung sa loob, di ba? Sa loob na lang. Bababa ko?
Kasi kagod na.
Sige.
Sabi na lang ako.
Okay. Pag ba sa loob, ano dyan, mas better ba ilagay dyan?
Kasi sir, pag sa loob, iwas kayo sa kung masisira man, ng bata, ng aso, mga kalmot, ng pusa. Iwas siya sa ganun.
Okay.
Kasi sa labas, nakadikit lang sa labas na ganun.
Okay.
Pag sa loob, ingat kayo kasi nakasarado siya.
After lining up for more than an hour, our RFID sticker was installed. A card which bears the account number was given for reloading purposes. Kasi kanina inabot kami na 1 oras sa pila, ba't ganun, sir?
Sa dyan ba?
Oo.
Kasi nga sir, sobrang daming kinakabitan eh.
Okay.
Kaya po naglagay na ng emergency lane para sa mga hindi pa nakakabitan.
Pero may mga nag-a-assist naman kung saan yung mismong pila ng
Oo sir, tsaka may nakalagay naman na sa taas. Iba kasi alam na nilang hindi reloadan, pumipila pa din nun. Tapos magagalit pa.
So paano ba dapat ang gawin nila?
Kasi kung reloadan sir, may reloadan naman tayo na pwedeng pilaan. Doon na sana pumila.
Okay. So,
kasi iba naman, hindi naman maglo-load, doon pumipila sa reloadan para lang mauna.
Authorities noticed though that expressway traffic is more manageable today compared to yesterday, the first day of cashless toll operations. In an online briefing, the Toll Regulatory Board said the heavy traffic experience at the tollways yesterday are just birth pains as the first day of the implementation coincided with the return of motorists from a 3-day weekend.
Admittedly, early morning, we received reports, may mga nagkaka-traffic na lugar, and then we continued to monitor. Expect din namin dahil long weekend, na maraming luluwas na walang RFID.
Many motorists were also trying to familiarize themselves with the new system. For instance, many are unaware that their accounts do not have enough load, stalling movement at the toll gates. The Transportation Department has already extended the transition period to January 11. This, they say, should give sufficient time for motorists to acclimatize themselves or have their stickers installed.
We think the net effect will still be the same. So mga kinakailangan lang nating alalahanin dyan o tandaan, number one, wala namang apprehension or arrest or penalties kapag yung motorista walang RFID sa sasakyan kahit beyond December 1. Number two, yung stickering lanes will still be maintained.
Transportation Undersecretary Alberto Juansing meanwhile clarified that they are currently implementing the one RFID two-wallet system. This means a single RFID is readable on different tollways, but two wallets need to be maintained as they will be loaded separately.
Yan yung phase 1 ng programa. Meaning kung ikaw ay merong naka-install na RFID ng San Miguel, hindi mo na kinakailangan kumuha ng RFID ng Metro Pacific. Kundi ang gagawin lamang is pumunta yung may-ari ng sasakyan sa opisina ng Metro Pacific para mairehistro yung RFID na yan.
The DOTr aims to move the next phase of the RFID transition by January, where the one RFID, one wallet system will be implemented. Under this phase, only one RFID sticker will be used for all tollways, and only one wallet need to be maintained for toll payments.
Sa ngayon, ang ating tinatrabaho is yung phase 1B naman ng programa. Yun yung kung meron kang RFID ng Metro Pacific, hindi mo na kinakailangan kumuha ng RFID ng San Miguel, kundi dadalhin mo yung sasakyan sa opisina ng San Miguel para ma-recognize yung RFID ng Metro Pacific.
Robbie, the DOTr says their eyes are still on the goal, which is to avoid the spread of COVID-19 while easing congestion on toll expressways. Now, toll operators have also noticed an increase in the number of RFID users to 85% yesterday from 60% in previous weeks. Back to you.
Maraming salamat, JC Cosico. 724 million pesos worth of cash subsidies have already been distributed to operators of public utility vehicles affected by the pandemic. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board says some 110,000 PUV operators have already received cash aid since mid-November. The multi-million peso cash subsidy for PUVs is mandated under Bayanihan 2. The program grants an operator 6,500 pesos for each unit registered in a government franchise. Some jeepney drivers, however, claim that they have yet to receive the promised dole-out during the early months of the pandemic through the Social Amelioration Program. With some routes open, hundreds of jeepney drivers have since applied under the Government Service Contracting Program to recuperate lost income during the months under strict lockdown. And just when it's the season to be jolly, some individuals are struggling to keep their mental health in check, especially with lockdowns in place. Camille Samonte tells us more about how the pandemic is exacerbating those holiday blues.
Alwin wants to go home to Legazpi this Christmas. For him, nothing compares to celebrating the holidays with loved ones. But with the pandemic still around, Alwin can only reunite with his family through video calls.
Actually, malungkot siya. Malungkot siya, lalo na pag naiisip mo na parang ikaw lang mag-celebrate ng Christmas. Pero iba yung impact niya. Iba yung impact niya pagdating dun sa emotion mo. Kasi
the holidays are usually viewed as time of happiness and rejoicing, a psychologist noted that it can also be a period of loneliness and wistfulness. Such pervasive feelings are known as the holiday blues, and it may get worse this 2020.
That stress, dahil sobrang mas matindi na yung stress na naramdaman, hindi lang yung stress sa Christmas, stress pa sa pandemic. Pag nagkaroon ng anxiety, definitely it can escalate dun sa tinatawag nating possibility of depression.
To help wipe away the blues, Dr. Camille Garcia said communication is key and that families must reach out to members that happen to be far away. She also urged the public, particularly those who lost their jobs, to take things one at a time and not be pressured if others are in a seemingly better place. The National Center for Mental Health has recorded a significant increase in hotline calls since lockdown started.
But if you're asking me, kung tumaas ang number of callers because of these feelings of anxiety and depression, definitely 3 times po.
Most callers just wanted to open up about the difficulties of the pandemic. Those who have been clinically diagnosed with depression and anxiety, meanwhile, were triggered daily by the series of events. Experts clarify that while holiday blues are less serious than clinical depression, it should not be trivialized. They reiterate there's no harm in seeking professional help.
So let's bridge them to a mental health professional. Yun po ang best way. Going to a psychiatrist, to a mental health professional, does not mean you're crazy.
But if it can't be helped, one ought to focus on self-care.
Eat well, sleep well, and then kung sakasakali meron kang mga kaibigan na yung talaga nagkakaroon ng problema, simple na lumabas kayo, breathe fresh air, is something that can alleviate symptoms of depression. Tandaan nyo, ang hangin libre, ang sunlight libre, ang paglalakad libre.
For those who have mental health concerns, 24/7 hotlines are available. You may reach out to them at 1553-0917-899-8727 or 027-989-8727. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Let's pause for a quick break. When we return, it's a nail-biter Game 2 in the PBA Finals. Find out which team clinched the win. And the United Kingdom might have its residents vaccinated as early as next week after it approved the emergency use of Pfizer shots. The details on that later. Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. House lawmakers are hoping that President Duterte will favor the security of tenure bill this time around, but some of their colleagues and other groups think the measure is actually counterproductive. Ria Fernandez tells us why in this report.
Lee Clavero has been working as a housekeeping staff at the House of Representatives for more than a year now. For a contractual worker, he fears his job won't last long.
Dati po, 6 months lang po yung kontrata ko na natapos po yun, wala na po. Maganda nga po kung regular ka nga po sa trabaho. Siyempre, para hindi ka nga po magpalipat-lipat ng trabaho.
He is among the workers who stand to benefit from the security of tenure bill in the private sector, which the lower house just passed on third and final reading. Congressmen on Tuesday voted 240-7 in favor of House Bill 7036, which seeks to prohibit labor-only contracting. According to the measure, such setup exists when a contractor supplies workers to an employer without substantial capital, without control over how tasks are accomplished, and when a contractor provides workers who perform activities directly related to the employer's principal business. The measure legitimizes job contracting or the provision of an agency of specific services for a principal employer. It prohibits the unjust termination of a regular employee, as well as the fixed-term employment, except for OFWs, workers on probation, and relievers. Job contractors will be required to obtain a license from the Labor Department. House Labor Committee Chairperson Enrico Pineda is confident that President Duterte will approve the new version. Recall that the chief executive had previously vetoed House Bill 6908, saying it destroys the delicate balance between employers and employees.
This bill is the most balanced, it's fair for both parties.
The lawmaker also hopes that the Senate will adopt their version to ensure its swift transmission to the President. But minority lawmakers have reservations.
House Bill 6908 outlaws contractualization, while House Bill 7036 legalizes job contracting. This will complicate the issue due to the very thin line that separates labor contracting from job contracting, Mr. Speaker.
This is also the view of the Associated Labor Unions Trade Congress of the Philippines. The group appeals to the President not to sign the measure.
Hindi uunlad ang buhay ng mga manggagawa kapag ang bill na ito ay naprubahan dahil forever silang endo, forever silang minimum wage, wala silang security of tenure, hindi sila kasama sa pag-unlad ng kumpanya.
The Employers Confederation of the Philippines believes that the bill is counterproductive.
We know that the concept of dependent employment is steadily being eroded, and based on the future of work under the fourth industrial revolution, there will be an unprecedented rise of independent contractors, telework, and a constellation of other internet-enabled companies.
For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
Manila and Manila water customers can expect slightly lower bills in the first 3 months of 2021. Manila will cut rates by 0.05 centavos per cubic meter. That's equivalent to a 50 centavo to over 1 peso rate cut in a month, depending on consumption. Manila Water will meanwhile implement a rollback of 14 centavos per cubic meter. That translates to 0.76 to almost 4 peso decrease in billing. The MWSS says the rollback is caused by the Foreign Currency Differential Adjustment or FCDA effective in the first quarter of 2021. Water concessionaires have also decided to delay the implementation of approved rate increases to make sure water bills stay affordable during the pandemic.
The reason basically why there's a downward adjustment is the appreciation of the Philippine peso vis-a-vis the US dollars and the Japanese yen. Remember, we are in COVID right now. There's a pandemic. So these small things add up in the long run. This is per month.
The United Kingdom is now the first Western country to approve a COVID-19 vaccine after it cleared Pfizer shots for emergency use. Vaccine rollout in the UK could begin early next week, a major feat for the government of Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who has faced criticism over his handling of the pandemic. More than 1.6 million cases have been recorded in the United Kingdom. The country also has the worst death count in Europe, with at least 59,000 deaths. Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech announced a 95% efficacy rate for its experimental vaccine. It's also expected to secure emergency use authorization in the United States soon. In sports, the TNT Tropang Giga failed to stage a comeback against Barangay Ginebra in Game 2 of the PBA Finals, 92-90. TNT only led as much as 4 points at halftime, 40-36. Tropang Giga's main man, Ray Parks, also missed action after sustaining a calf injury in Game 1. The Gin Kings eventually took over in the last 30 seconds of the final frame, 87-85, and it sustained the momentum from there. Game 3 will be on Friday, 6 p.m. And some welcome news for the Army. The BTS Army, that is, the K-pop megastar group, will remain intact as South Korea just passed a law allowing artists to postpone mandatory military service. K-idols such as BTS may now put off their army membership. South Korea's Military Service Act was amended. The BTS Military Service Amendment accepts K-pop megastars, high-profile classical musicians, and Olympic medalists from the required 2-year military service for men aged 18 to 28. This is on the grounds that they have helped improve the country's cultural and economic status. BTS' oldest member, the 27-year-old Jin, is already nearing enlistment at the time they're rewriting K-pop history. The 7-piece boy band recently topped the U.S. charts with Dynamite. They were also the first K-pop group to receive a Grammy nomination. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. It's 23 days to go before Christmas. Tuloy pa rin ang Pasko, kapatid. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.
Tayo'y maging liwanag ng Pasko. Tulong-tulong tayo. Tayo'y liwanag, ikaw at ako. Tuloy pa rin ang Pasko.